Good afternoon. I'm sure that by the end of today, by now, you know much more about these applicants than I do, and you probably don't need to look at notes now after a day of interviewing. So if I miss anything out that's relevant, or you feel the urge to help out, please do. I'm quite happy for this to be an interactive experience. The way I'm going to do this is in three parts. The first part, I want to talk very briefly about the key criteria. The second part will be to tell you what the applications are about, who's made them and so forth. The third part will be to compare the criteria with the bids. I've got a handout about the notes on the key criteria, so rather than gallop through them hugely, I'm going to give this to you. Basically, it shows some of the issues I've considered and how I've interpreted the criteria. Right, the reason I've used the key criteria as opposed to the assessment framework was because in this situation I didn't think there were three strong bids that were competing, so there wasn't a need for a way of breaking down and analysing which project should get funding. Right, the notes on the key criteria. The first thing is that the application fulfills personal objectives. By this, I've taken this to mean that the person who's undertaking the project will actually gain something from the experience, be it increase in self-development, confidence or qualification, and that really the Foundation sees this as a positive and an important aspect of the project. Two, that the project benefits the community. I've listed a number of ways that the community can benefit. It's fairly broad. They can increase in skills, knowledge, a new resource in the community, so forth. The third criteria is fairly evident, but the fourth one, that is measurable outputs, in essence is that the project sets out to achieve a certain aim and outlines how it will achieve that aim in a quantifiable manner. The fifth criteria is fairly clear. The sixth criteria is that it reduces exclusion, improves quality of life, both broad categories, and can be interpreted in a number of different ways, all of which are valid. Exclusion, I suppose I should mention, is caused by many factors and may not be an active. It may not be that somebody is actively being excluded, but excluded by poverty or lack of access, or even just not knowing about a particular resource. Quality of life, broad category, physical, emotional and spiritual elements, from things that improve the quality of your life and cleaner streets to a decrease in crime and fear about crime. So they're all different aspects of the criteria. So that's broadly how I've interpreted them and how I've used them. Okay, part two. The applicants. There's three applicants. The first one lives in Chelsea. His name's Roger Dory. He's 35. He's from the Cameroon. He's a client of the Foundation, and therefore I assume he's a victim of torture, organised violence. He speaks French. He has a little English, and his status is that he's an asylum seeker. He needs a translator. The aim of his project is to set up a five-a-side football team made up of local boys from the Cameroon community. The first part of the project will be for him to gain a qualification in coaching. The second part will be to actually get the boys together and coach them to play five-a-side football. There's a mentoring aspect in that he will also teach them about life skills, health and things like that. It's targeted at adolescent boys, particularly because it's a time when adolescence is a time when identity crisis is likely to happen, I think. There's also evidence that the applicant's familiar with his community. For example, he chooses five-a-side because it's cheaper for the parents, because a lot of the families can't afford football boots. His history or relevant experience is that he was a teacher in Cameroon and has taught physical education. The cost of the project is £2,303. The biggest expense is the hire of the pitch and the Football League membership, so he wants to affiliate it to the Football League. That's the first project. The second project is by a chap called David Rogers, who lives in Southwark. He's 8 years old, he's English, I assume he's English. He was held by the Japanese during the Second World War, which is his connection to the foundation. I should also mention that here he talks about Eric Lomax's service group of veterans. Now I know Eric Lomax is either a trustee or a patron of this charity, so there might be some pertinent information there that I'm not aware of. I don't know, for example, what the service group of veterans actually does. His language is English, he's British citizen, he's worked in this country for 30 years. The aim of his project is to go into a local school and convert derelict school land into a garden. He will teach the children and basically facilitate the children to achieve this. He's got the support of the school, and at the end result of the project will be to build a community garden. Effectively, the children will build the community garden, who will help them. His history and relevant experience is that he was a teacher and he has 30 years gardening experience on an allotment and on an allotment. The cost of the project is £1,500, and the largest expense are the tools and flowers. The third applicant, her name is Hodan Hirut. She lives in Hackney. She's 26. She's from Somalia. She's a client of the foundation and undergoing treatment, so she's known and is a victim of violence or torture. Her language is English and her status is she's a refugee. The aim of her project is to document Somali women's history, to produce a booklet and a website, to set up a friendly society for Somali women and to teach them English. And to achieve this, she will undertake TEFL training, which is teaching English as a foreign language, to be able to teach women English. She'll also undertake web training to set up the website. She will then recruit 10 women who will learn English and talk about their wartime experiences, which she will then transcribe, or they will transcribe, into a booklet and a website. Her history and relevant experience is not clear from the application. And the cost of the project is £2,300, the largest expense being training, which is just over £1,300. Okay, part 3. That was the applicants. This is my recommendations and how I've applied the criteria to the applications.